Do you know who's your oldest living relative? Did you know that they often have priceless family treasures in their homes or their heads that can help you discover your family story? In this episode, we'll learn why it is super important to talk to your oldest living relatives as soon as possible. Greetings, normal humans! Let's get started discovering your family story by uncovering the buried treasures found in the homes and heads of your own family. Your relatives have things in their house which have been passed down, such as old family photos, letters, documents, heirlooms, or maybe even a family Bible or other types of family records. These all tell pieces of your family story and are priceless records of your past. They also have stories and facts in their heads that will also help you discover your family story. Let's get started. This first step will take you about 2 to 3 minutes. First thing to do is make a list of all of your oldest living relatives that you know of. Maybe your parents, grandparents, or some aunts and uncles, or maybe even a great aunt or uncle. Once you've got your list, you're ready for the next step, which will be about 30 minutes or so with each of those relatives. Call or video chat or visit. You could start out by telling them that you're curious about your family's story. Then you want to start asking some questions, but what questions should you ask? Here's some questions that are really helpful in helping you find out more about your family story. Tell me about your parents and or grandparents. Once you get them talking, you can start to ask other clarifying questions like, what stories do you remember about them? Where did they live? When and where were they married? What did they do for a living? And when did they die? If they don't remember when they died, you could ask them how old they were when their parent or grandparent died, and then you can figure it out from there. Here's another question. Who are the oldest relatives you remember, and what do you remember about them? Often they'll talk about several, so take notes and ask clarifying questions. You are trying to uncover clues about the places where your ancestors came from and things like their occupations or important family stories about their life experiences. These will help you to discover more about your family story. When you were young, do you recall relatives from out of town visiting or traveling to visit relatives? Where? And if they don't, maybe ask them if their parents called or wrote to relatives and where they lived. Next question, did your parents or grandparents tell you any family stories or legends? Do you believe they're true? And why? Ask them if they have any family photos, letters, documents, heirlooms, or family Bibles. Ask if you can see them and maybe take some photographs. Family photos and artifacts are great for prompting them to tell more stories. Maybe you want to ask them if they know where your family comes from, or if they know where family members were married or buried, or what churches they may have attended. Ask if there's anyone in the family who's into genealogy or family history. Get details about who they are and contact information if possible. Here's a few things to remember when talking to your relatives. Make it enjoyable. You don't want a death march of question after question, but rather a fun and enjoyable conversation of sharing the family story. Pay attention to if they're enjoying it or not. Make sure they're comfortable. Ensure it's a good time to chat, and don't push them to talk too long. Watch and listen for signs of fatigue. Respect their time. Keep the conversation shorter by only asking a few of the questions. Then invite them to contact you if they remember something else, and ask if you could call or visit with them again to learn more. A series of conversations is far better than one long and drawn-out session, because each conversation will prick their memory and you'll get more information. Respect their privacy. Ask them if they're comfortable sharing information with you. Don't dig too deep about things that make them uncomfortable. Some memories are hard to talk about. Watch and listen for them becoming nervous or tense. That's a sign of an uncomfortable topic. It also may be a sign that there's more to the story than they're comfortable sharing. Always ask for permission before recording a conversation. Be grateful. Always thank them for sharing with you and for their time. Share with them things you've learned which they may not know. Reciprocating is one way of showing that you value the information they're sharing with you. A small gift may be helpful too. Be careful with the information that you gather. Remember, a person's memory is never perfect. It can and likely will have errors in it. Especially a very elderly person may not recall things completely accurately. Why is it important to talk to these relatives soon? Well, they won't always be around. There's a great African proverb which says, "When an old man dies, it's a library burning." Please don't lose the libraries full of your family stories found in the homes and heads of your relatives. Start talking to them today before it's too late. See you next time.